There's an MIT study, 2025, said something like upwards of 90% of AI implementations are failing.
So hallucinations is like the problem. Accuracy is the blocker. What everyone wants is adoption and ROI. If the answer is coming out of this black box is not helping me in my everyday, then I'm going to go and do what I used to do. So that's why RAG is actually emerging as the standard enterprise approach to trustworthy generative AI.
Fast forward to 2030, what does the world look like?
I think from RAG, it's going to evolve to agents.
Last question I have for you is, do you think the LLM structure is here to stay, or will something better replace it? So we have CPO of Vectara, Eva Nahari, here with us. Welcome.
Yes. Thank you. I'm honored.
I want to jump right into it because we're gonna talk about a lot of stuff today, but let's jump right in because the big conversation we're gonna have is RAG.
RAG.
Some people know it, some people don't know what it is. What is it?
The acronym is Retrieval Augmented Generation. But what does it mean? Well, if you ask a question to LLM today, a big general model, you get an answer based on what that model has seen and the probability of the order of words, right? So what has seen somewhere, and then what's more likely to be the output. Simply speaking, RAG is that you actually provide it the data it can look at to generate the answer. So it's like taking a test, but you have the book next to you. You can actually go and see the accurate factual data, if the book is correct, But you have the raw source data available in the process of generating the answer. The powers of the human-like interaction, but with more reliable foundation of actually trusting the data. Especially if it's enterprise.
Especially if it's enterprise. So I'm sure there's a lot of smaller companies, people that go, hey, we have a HR person spending most of their day answering questions that are in the handbook. Let's load our 80-page PDF into a custom GPT and say, answer questions.
I would rather keep it outside the custom GPT.
Right.
Because it can still hallucinate in there. And the more you can force the LLM to generate about what you actually feed it, the context, the more likely it will be accurate. So even training custom models are fragile because it loops in the data with the model, and it's easier to switch out the data. Let's say the book was wrong. Let's say there's new HR policies. You want to switch it out. It's easier to decouple the raw data from the model and serve the precise piece of information needed at the point of generation. So RAG is actually emerging as the standard enterprise approach to trustworthy generative AI or agentic.
So for companies that are like, hey, AI sucks, it doesn't work because I loaded my 80-page PDF and said, answer the questions, and they're wondering why it's, not reading the full 80 pages before answering, or it's, hallucinating. It's because a proper RAG system isn't in place to be able to say, let's parse this data ahead of time and send the LLM what it actually needs versus an entire 80-page handbook.
Yeah, you need to help the AI to be successful. And you need to understand that there's a lot of plumbing and piping around it to get it real and useful. And usefulness and adoption comes from accuracy. If the answer is coming out of this black box is not helping me in my everyday, then I'm going to go and do what I used to do, right? So the accuracy is more important than you think, even in a simple everyday day-to-day context.
There's an MIT study, 2025, said something like upwards of 90% of AI implementations are failing.
Yeah.
What does failing mean? It doesn't mean that they're not finishing them. It's that they're not seeing the value out of it. They're not replacing the manual process it was supposed to.
Yes.
Right? And that comes down to garbage in, garbage out in a lot of cases.
Garbage in, or great things in but still garbage out, or skills, not understanding what it takes to get it right. But in the end, it's the garbage out that prevents adoption, that prevents that going to production and scale it. If no one is using the system, why would you roll it out, right?
What size companies are using RAGs today? Is it mostly the enterprise level?
I have a slightly biased view there. I'm aware because I only work with enterprises. So I don't know what the SMBs are using.
Right.
I think enterprises have landed on RAG because of the increased accuracy, but also the separation of data, so they can follow compliance, they can show the trace that this data was involved in this workflow. Many times big enterprises are under regulatory requirements to show where an answer or an offer that you send to an insurance client, it needs to follow certain standards and rules. It can't be biased and skewed towards a certain age or a certain ethnic background, right? It's a lot of rules and policies you need to follow. And separating the data from the model makes that process easier in regulated industries.
Remember, I think it was the Georgia Institute of Technology had that automated car, right? The self-driving car thing. Do you want to tell me?
If I recall it correctly, it was trained over data and then put into production, and then it kind of disregarded people of color, especially dark at night, in that
Like a five
driving car scenario. And that is like, yeah, you have to very much look at the data, what goes in, if you train a model. But if you just train the model to generate language, and then you yourself are responsible for the data in at any point in time, I think that simplifies those scenarios and increase not only the accuracy, but the control of the data set if it needs to change. And that will address bias situations better than if one team trained a model a certain way and then later discovers that it was completely skewed.
So you said one team trains the models. That's interesting. So are there instances where large enterprise companies have multiple RAG models across the business?
I think that is a growing problem. It's easy to stitch a little hobby RAG together, and many teams without a big, large enterprise have done that. And the POC stage is beautiful. It's like, oh, I have my skills. It's exciting. It's new technology. Like, I've been there. I'm also excited. But then when you start rolling it out at scale, and you have to show transparency for audit trails, you need to cover citations, or you need to have fine-grained access control handled better, or you just can't get the retrieval process right. You really need to fine-tune how you retrieve pieces and what pieces are more relevant for the task. It suddenly starts becoming hard. But in POC land, it's easy or challenge enough, but fun to do. And then the hard part starts when you go in production. But therefore, you see this fun, exciting teams all over the place building their own RAGs, and suddenly you have a RAG sprawl. And IT goes like, and we can't even scale one because we haven't figured out the info security, the data governance. Oh my goodness, they're getting gray hair as we speak. Right? So it's become a RAG sprawl this year. And I'm kind of seeing it shifting just terminology, but same or maybe 10x worse, which is agent sprawl. Now you have these little self-driving functions to go and actually do transactions for you. Do you trust them? How do you control it? Where's the data trace? Where's the governance? Like, I'm just looking at 2026. It's like, okay, it's going to be 10x worse.
Yeah. You have a long background talking and thinking about this stuff. You started as a software engineer, and you actually wrote your master's thesis in 2002?
Oh, now we're dating me. But okay. Yes, 2002 in reinforcement learning. It was super cool technology back then. Still is. But, I was in AI before it was cool.
Before it was cool, yeah. And then 9 years at Cloudera.
Yes.
Right? And that was during the big data boom.
Mm-hmm.
Any lessons you took away from that you're able to apply today?
Every day. Like, first, the enterprise empathy. Like, when you're let's say you're a small startup, it's like, oh, I built this great thing. You just have to move all your data into this structure and in my place and do it the way I have envisioned it, right? That's not reality. Enterprises are messy. They have data from like 20 different acquisitions or more. They have legacy systems like mainframes. And think about that. There's so many different systems that you have to nicely coexist with or integrate with or see the bigger picture of what rules, processes, and regulations an enterprise need to meet. Even just to acquire a piece of software is a whole new journey for them. So all these pieces of empathy I apply every day, but with my enthusiastic startup, in the backing. And it's a journey. So that's, I think, if I have to summarize everything I've learned at Cloudera, which is a lifetime, it feels like. every stage was different too. But in the stage we're in, it's about building the trust to take the journey together and understanding the pains and the situation that enterprise is in at that point in time and guide them how they safely can adopt this, safely can scale it in a partnership, and also make it successful together, not just close the deal and leave like many companies.
So we're talking about enterprise, and you're talking about the level of complexity of the data and the antiquated stuff. I've been in companies that are 1,000 employees, and I look at our Confluence, and you got AI pointing at it where you could ask it any question. I'm looking, going, there's a million outdated policies in here that we've never cleaned up. How is AI going to know that this is not that this is outdated and not give somebody the wrong answer?
Data management and data governance with this Gen AI era out of the closet is going to be 10x more important. That's another thing from the big data era. Is like some people just threw every set of data in this data lake, and then you were in a data swamp, right? The ones who had a clear business goal, clear ROI anticipations, and then took precaution to get the right data in to meet that business objective, they were successful and could scale and repeat.
With the right architecture to be able to connect, right, as they grow.
Yes.
Because you get a company that's, the whole idea is to be able to scale more with AI, so to allow you to scale more without more headcount or more overhead.
Exactly.
Right? If it's gonna help and you're gonna scale, you also need to make sure you have the people that are cleaning the data to ensure that what you're feeding in is accurate, right?
And I think it's an upfront friction, upfront heavy lift to then just spin out 300 use cases. And that's what we see with our customers is like you start with 3, and then a few months later it's 25, a few months later it's 300. So it's if you get it right and you see, it's not just talk. Like if you see the results, then it's easier to get the next projects running and more support through the organization.
I spent 5 or 6 years in-house in portfolio operations in private equity, and I know you were about 4 years or so in venture capital.
Yes.
Quite different in terms of the portfolio companies that they're investing in and everything. But during your time, you invested in 14 AI companies that invested in
7,000.
probably thousands of sims that you disregarded or whatever. Like, what are you taking away from that time to be able to apply to today?
First of all, there's a big hype that has kind of fueled itself, and it's like the snowball effect. So we're in like super hype now on what AI can do and cannot do and what it can produce immediately. While on the other hand, like enterprises it's gotten more and more complicated to make a selection. Like there was like 650 startups in a quarter with like agentic in it some quarters ago, right? It's an overwhelming speed, noise, and uncertainty. Guess what enterprises do? They take a step back and like, okay, we need to think this through. So sales cycles have slowed down.
Yeah.
And then the pressure from the board is like, you have to get into AI or else we'll fall behind. There's a very high tension in the market. There's a VC hype, startup Kool-Aid, enterprise slowdown, hesitation, fear, and fear of falling behind, fear of making the wrong choice, fear of everything. Like that doesn't make sense equation-wise to a mathematician like me, or at least wannabe mathematician. But I think it leaves this interesting taste of like, okay, to really navigate this 4-year chaos that I was part of on one side of the table, and then now on this one, is focus on what's real. Focus on real business values. Focus on delivering results with the customer. Focus on the customer's needs. Help them guide through the journey. And then all the marketing noise will implode on itself eventually. That's at least where I'm like, be level-headed, be sober. Someone needs to be sober in this context.
I think there's another layer too in terms of like in the gap between, the VCs hyping it, the AI startups selling it. You've got this middle layer before you get to enterprise that I've seen of the PE side, where I can't tell you a PE board meeting I've been in the last 4 years where there hasn't been some talk of AI. And then now, like maybe not 4, maybe 2, but now it's like and what we're hearing from our companies, which are customers at Cadre, a lot of them are private equity backed, and they're saying it's coming up in every, like, what is your AI strategy?
Yes.
And there's this hype that's going on of agents are here, they can do whatever you need, right? And they're just like an employee that you train and you let them go.
And then they wipe out your hard drive.
Right. Like, or, I mean, you think about even just like a simple prompt that like people are going, they're giving a very simple prompt and saying, why am I not getting the best results? It's like the same thing as an employee comes in. You can give them one sentence and say, and expect them to do their job well.
Right.
Like, you got to give them context. You got to give them SOPs. You got to say, this is what
Yes.
we expect from you.
I think that's, if we're looking at next year, it's going to be more about how do you provide the right context to the agents? How do you put guardrails in place? How do you guide them to get back on the track if they're slightly going off the trail? And we talked about hallucinations, maybe a little bit like generative models are very creative. They're incentivized to come up with context and sentences and things. But really for the enterprise workload, it needs to be the opposite. Don't be creative, right? Be consistent, be, truth grounded. And then all these guardrails that needs to also protect the agentic, which then also can hallucinate, by the way. So even in the first step of a multi-agent workflow, the first step can go a little wrong. But guess what happens if you like
Keeps going, right?
Yeah. So it's 10x down the road.
Yeah.
Very, very bad decision, right? So you have to dynamically course direct. And this is something I'm passionate about, is the real-time governance. There's a new concept that's come up that's called guardian agents.
Okay.
That can kind of evaluate tool choices, or should we take path A or B? But you missed out C. Like what makes sense here? So it's some kind of feedback loop on course directing agents as they go. That I mean by real-time governance. You govern the agents in the right direction.
Have you seen instances where, and I'm asking because I've heard this to be the case, but I haven't seen it like in true application of using two agents with one, you're saying your job is to do this thing, and the other one to say your job is to poke holes in that thing and feed it. So essentially to say there's got to be a human in the loop that's going to ultimately look at this and say, is this the right answer that we got? But can you successfully use agents to kind of correct each other before it gets to that human?
Yes, you can, if you have insight in every step of the pipeline. So that's why I believe building an end-to-end RAG platform or agentic RAG platform is the key, because then you can not only know what the truth is or the intent of the query is. Intent logging is another thing I think is going to start popping up as something. You need to understand the context, but also the intention of this workflow. And the more you context and along with intention, you can provide and guide and course direct the agentic workflow along the way, the better outcome. I think hallucinations will always happen, but having human in the loop is one way. But now when an agent are going to decide what tools to use and what path to take, it's actually inefficient to have a human step along the way. Then it's almost more efficient to have the human do everything. Then you don't get the automation efficiency, right? So you need something at those steps too. It's almost like I want to turn it around, like agent in the loop. You have the human workflow, but then you have an agent helping with the compliance checks. That's like tedious and aggregating information and asking questions. And then you continue, and then you do this step. But the agents themselves also needs this guardrail to really get it right.
Well, they say, like, if you're thinking about a workflow and it's like all manual, next version of it is let's get some like humans monitoring it. They're dropping something into a whatever it is, custom GPT, and it's helping, and they're taking it out and work that until it's working really well, automate it. Then you can maybe move to agents, and then maybe you're moving to this full system. You're working with businesses that are in that full, like they're ready to build that full system right off the bat. So hallucinations, as we mentioned, are probably the biggest concern that any business is going to have is, are we going to, we can't monitor every answer of what this is telling our employees, or can we? So here's, I guess the question comes down to, how should they be thinking about monitoring the accuracy of these workflows they put in place.
So hallucinations is like the problem, right? Accuracy is the blocker. What everyone wants is adoption and ROI, right? So it's all tied back into this problem of hallucinations, not just in incorrect data being fed into the pipeline, the model being trained incorrectly if you do it yourself, or like hallucination generating answers that aren't backed in data, but also the retrieval step could be a problem if you get the like non-relevant pieces of information in the RAG pipeline even. So it's accuracy is complex. I'm trying to share that it's like multi-dimensional. You need to look at the data in. You need to look at every step of that RAG pipeline. Retrieval is not easy, right? So you can't just have a vector database match. You need to put some kind of semantic understanding or hybrid search in there to get a relevance. What should I send? Then the model choice will be another step. And then detecting if the output is still hallucinating based on what was sent to the LLM, right? But we can course direct that automatically. You don't have to have a human in the loop. Most enterprises want a human in the loop to begin with, to build the trust. But over time, if they can see the system actually course directing where there are faults, using guardian agents or some other guardrails, right? You can take more and more step back. That's why I speak of it as a journey. It's not overnight.
Yeah.
You have to learn a lot about this. You have to prepare each step in the right way. There needs to be people management, like change management involved. There needs to be time to wrap their heads around how to interact with this system that's supposedly going to help them. It's a journey. So you can't have expectation like I put the button and ChatGPT will solve everything for me if you're going to solve enterprise workflows. It is a journey. It needs a lens and deep dive in each step of that journey. But then when you get it right, you can scale massively.
Yeah. But even if you had the stakeholder level, call it C-suite or VP level or at an enterprise saying, yes, we understand this is a journey.
Yeah.
If they're not doing the proper change management and communication down, the people on their team that are using it, there's probably still going to be that expectation of, I pressed the button. I've always done it this other way.
Yeah.
I pressed this button.
Yeah.
Didn't get the answer.
Yeah.
Sucks. I'm doing this other way. I'm going back to the original way.
What we've learned with our customers is that there's always a deployment phase, implementation phase, and then there's a rollout phase. And that could look very different depending on which industry or company you work with. But you let people give their feedback. You listen to people like, does this work? And you take that very seriously. If this system, this AI system, doesn't do 10x what the person will do to help them do their job, there will be a lot of double work. You have to build the trust, and trust comes by listening, getting the feedback, and working that into the journey or process.
Yeah.
Then they will see the results.
Getting into a little bit of the details, I'm curious about the hallucination side of how do you, like, why does AI hallucinate? You said it's built to be, inventive. That's part of it. But then there's also different types of what we might call hallucinations, which may just be like a concatenation error between data, right? And others. There's a lot of reasons I would imagine that the answer could be wrong or start veering off along the way.
There are many reasons, even like, as I mentioned, in the agentic world where tools are selected, now they're picking the wrong tools. It's not hallucination the way we have gotten to know it, but it is. It's like making a choice that is not aligned with the intent, right? So there are many faults that can happen, and they have different nuances of flavors. But the important thing is to catch them before you get to action, right? So catching them, detecting them, and you can compare A and B. And having a model that says, I'm not sure, I found 2 sources. Give it transparency and not the confidence that the big general models have been trained to have.
Right.
People, we should reflect on us more. Like, we come and say, like, hey, I found 2 sources. Which one? We check in with our leadership or manager, hopefully, if you work in a good company. But like, you double check with other people if you can't get forward. And the model should treat you as such. Like, okay, I don't know which choice to make here. Can you guide me?
Right.
Can you provide more context? And that part has been improved a little bit, but like I'm talking about the agentic interaction, but it's very hard to change these big models to have that. It requires a lot of retraining. It's just the nature of the chat GPTs of the world to be very confident.
Yeah.
And like, I can do this. Yeah, but did I give you permission to? No. Oh, sorry. But that doesn't mean anything when your hard drive is gone.
Right. Okay, so you've had this long history in the space, AI before AI was cool. Here you are at Vectara. Like, why? What's exciting about what this company is doing that gets you up every day and eager to go in?
So I think I'm going to reflect back on different chapters of my life to give you the answer. The first chapter was like engineering, innovation, AI before anyone talked about it. I was like, this is the thing that will change the world. And I was very naive, but very happy.
Mhm.
And I tried to make it happen. Like, in the end, I was implementing it into Java virtual machine, like existing infrastructure technology. At least I got that. But the world wasn't ready. And then my track took me to the next chapter of infrastructure. So I built a lot of infrastructure for many, many years. I'm not going to tell you how many. But there I fell in love with the customer, like really from technology to actually building value, changing something for the world at Cloudera's days, but like also for the customer. Like, they're trying to achieve a next goal, and it's so important for all the people working around that. I want to help them, right? And then the pandemic happened, and I had a crisis, and then I can do this product and go to market in my sleep. I felt a little bit demotivated there. Mostly the pandemic's fault, but I accidentally ended up in VC, I would say. I needed something new, something completely different.
Yeah.
And I thought it was very exciting to build many companies instead of one, right? I wanted to share all this experience I have with distributed data and real machine learning and NLP in production. Now it's happening. And then I came to VC, and like 1 month in, give or take, ChatGPT. I was like, oh my goodness. Now it's really happening that it's out of the closet and people see what I saw. You know, I've been talking about NLP and how we need to use word to vec was the thing back then. But like, I really saw how natural language can change how we interact with systems and unlocking from like looking at screens, right? We need to come back to some more interesting interaction with systems that does things for us. That was my original passion back in the game. And VC was amazing. It taught me a lot of empathy for founders and other VCs. And it's a hard job. But after 4 years, I watched the world go down this track of, oh, let's just adopt it, and not understanding how bad it can go. From all my reinforcement learning, like even 20 years ago, like it can go really bad because the AI is just limited to what you provide. And you have to guide it the right way. And then Vectara is like what I believe is building the infrastructure and the almost like an agent operating system to protect the applications running from doing the wrong thing. And that's what I'm passionate about today. Is like, I wake up in the morning, I want to go and help enterprises doing this the right way based on everything I know, right? And the team is awesome. Like, team, number 1, passion, number 2, 3, the approach we do.
Love to hear it. Let's say we get RAG right. Everyone gets RAG right. Fast forward to 2030. What does the world look like? What's different?
Well, then my job is done. No, I think from RAG, it's going to evolve to agents, which is not just fetching their data into your controlled resources, but you're going to see agents fetching data from any SaaS API like Salesforce, NetSuite, what have you. I'm old school. Those are legacy.
Through traditional MCPs, do you think? Or do you think MCPs are not going to?
I mean, MCP is the thing now, and that in itself is going to create chaos and access security issues for quite some time. But that might evolve. There might come other standards. But the thing is, like, all this data retrieval from different places, and then you're going to exchange credits or credentials or doing something on behalf of someone, although that person doesn't have access to Salesforce? Or like, how are you going to figure that out?
Right.
I think that is the next phase of all this, the chaos of data retrieval from different systems and making sure you got the right data at the right time with the right purpose, the intent again.
And that person was allowed to access that data.
Spot on.
Right.
So we're going to face, you say what we're looking forward to, hopefully a lot of fantastic ROI thanks to proper RAG, but the chaos is going to continue. There's going to be a lot of room for new innovations, new startups, but hopefully enterprises will have learned more through this first journey of RAG.
Last question I have for you is, do you think the LLM structure is here to stay, or will something better replace it?
I think LLMs will be here for quite some time now. It's like the new database. And I mean, I squint my ass when I said that, but like that's the way you access data from now on, I think. Will there be new algorithms how to make it more efficient? Yes, probably, hopefully. AI research must continue. Will there be new innovation around getting it more and more right? Yes, that's the mission I'm on. So I bet hundreds of people and I encourage others to kind of take this on, because then the overall goal will be met. Will there be new architectures? Like agentic is still forming. I think there will be new jobs, like agent designer, agent developer, agent administrator or orchestrator, something there. Maybe agent architect. I mean, that's the new thing.
Quality assurance, right? Isn't it kind of crazy that like
it's quality assurance?
You know, there's some things that we think
checkers.
Yeah. There's some things that we think AI is going to be like great at now that can replace humans doing this. We might have a full circle moment where we have to hire so many humans in the future to fact check the AI.
Fact checkers.
Right? They're all going to come back. It's going to be a resurgence.
Yeah. One of my customers told me that their son in school are getting to use ChatGPT as homework thing. They have a question, they get the answer, and then they're going to fact check everything. That's their homework. So the world is already changing.
So we're building quality assurance specialists.
Yes.
In hyper focus.
But I think that's a good thing if we're going to go down and trust AI.
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to build it automatically so we don't have to.
Good. But well, let's hope you succeed. That would be nice.
I hope so.
Yeah. All right. Eva Nahari, CPO at Vectara. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you.